18th, 2023, coming up on the end of 2023. I can't believe that year's almost here, that the end of the year is almost here. Welcome. And let's make sure. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, there we go. All right. So, interesting topic today. We're going to talk about the concept surrounding the biology of our behaviors, our actions. And I'm going to share with you a very persuasive argument that this gentleman makes, Robert Sapolsky, that we have no free will at all. All right. Who's ready? All right, welcome to Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions. I am your host, Craig Pera of The Mindful Habit, and it is a great pleasure, privilege to be helping you create healthy sexuality and a great life. That is the goal of this podcast. All due respect, it is not sobriety. I like to say that sobriety is 10% of the solution. The cure is the aggressive pursuit of a great life. And I hope the information in this broadcast can help you aggressively pursue a great life. And what we're going to talk about today is an article or is a book called Determined, written by Robert Sapolsky. And this is Genius MacArthur award recipient, professor of neurology, and multiple other subjects at Stanford University. This guy is a heavy hitter academic, and his argument is, and I want you to think about this in terms, why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about this concept of there being no free will? I do not agree with the concept. However, what this article tells us is that we lack so much free will, and so much of our behavior is programmed. And for those of you who have been listening, we've been talking about that programming for now coming up on January, our 13th year. How awesome is that? So blessed, so honored, but we talk about all behavior is need-seeking behavior. And with very few exceptions, everything that you do is meeting a need, is a trained, conditioned response. Why? Because we can't function without trained, conditioned response, without that training, without that habitual response. So Professor Sapolsky takes it a step further, and let me share with you some of his quotes because I think they're pretty powerful. He says, "I don't think we have any free will whatsoever. I don't believe there is a shred of agency that goes into any of our behaviors. I believe, listen to this, I believe free will is what we call the biology that hasn't been discovered yet. What we call free will is simply biology that we haven't understood well enough yet." And he says, when you look at the biology of human behavior, there is no such thing as free will. He talks about the evolution of the science, and he says it's getting more and more crowded into tiny spaces and spaces where you are actually, and the science says, you are actually exercising free will. Now, like I mentioned, that is not the prevailing opinion. Most people don't believe that. I don't believe that. But when you think about what impacts your behavior, and this wonderful article, I post the link down below. So please read this article by Kyle Kowalski from the website sloww.co. A lot of great science and a great summary of some really important concepts. So here's what he said, right? I don't think we have a shred of free will. The reason for this is you do something and behave, you make a choice, whatever. And to understand why you did that and where that intention came from, part of it, he says, was due to the sensory environment you were in the previous minute, right? Was it really stressful? Was it happy? Was it, ripe with anger and discord? Some of it And this is all true, right? The science is, yes, some of it, some of your behavior and your ability to exercise free will is limited or compromised by the sensory, influenced by the sensory environment you were in the previous minute, right? Some of it is from the hormone levels in your bloodstream that morning. Some of it is from whether or not you had a wonderful or stressful last 3 months and what sort of neuroplasticity happened. Part of it is what hormone levels you were exposed to as a fetus. These are all the different actions that they've determined or experiences that has a massive impact on human behavior. Part of it is whether your cultural ancestors came up with and thus how you were parented when you were a kid. So obviously your parenting has significant influences. He goes on to talk about adverse childhood experiences, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, neglect, poverty, racism, all documented to impact human behavior. So then he says, okay, if we're talking about evolution, we're now talking about genetics. If you're talking about what genes have to do with behavior, by definition, you're talking about how your brain was constructed or what proteins are coded for. If you're talking about a mood disorder, now you're talking about the sense of efficacy that you were getting as a 5-year-old from your parents. They are all inexorably intertwined. And if anybody here listening, and I know a number of you are brothers who've done that family of origin work, who've gone back and understand where their parts came from and what those parts need, there's an origin story. All of that behavior, that automatic instantaneous behavior influenced by all these different factors. And here he cites some other studies that have shown that your behavior is influenced by the smell. If you were in a room that had smelly garbage, it might make you to get angry quicker. Your testosterone levels, whether or not you've been traumatized months ago, and the neurons in your amygdala grew and which ones didn't. If as a third trimester fetus, you were exposed to elevated levels of stress hormones from your mom's circulation. And he goes on and on and on and on. To conclude, I don't think that we have any free will whatsoever. He goes on to talk about the biology of behavior, the different parts of the brain, and he reflects here about the amygdala. The amygdala is about fear. Everybody here is using sex, or my brother listening, the guys listening, are using sex to manage the physiology of fear, in part. If we're talking about if your porn, masturbation, and orgasm is a coping strategy, if it is behavior that helps you escape, if it's a behavior that helps you manage stress, which it does for just about any, that means we're talking behaviors rooted in the amygdala because it is fear. It is fear. And he goes on to a whole bunch of science and talks about how he has come to the conclusion after rigorous study that we have absolutely no free will. Okay? How I've taken that, how I've received that is, thank you for telling me how narrow that window is. And to stop pretending that I'm exercising free will if I'm not managing distress. Right? If I'm reacting, getting angry, getting defensive, shutting down, numbing, coping, and escaping, I am not exercising free will. If I'm not managing my distress tolerance, and we'll talk about a specific way to do that, there's no way I'm going to be able to exercise free will. Or if I do, it will be incredibly limited. This narrow sliver, if you're not taking care of the basics. So many people overlook the fundamental 5: eating, sleeping, hydrating, exercising, and practicing mindfulness. Because this behavior is literally watching porn, masturbating to orgasm, and hiding it, right? For my married brothers listening to this, the hiding it. The hiding it, keeping secret, pleasure to escape pain is literally your oldest and most impactful habit, with maybe an exception around food, sugar, using food as comfort. It is naturally comforting, okay? And it was used to comfort us as babies. So maybe that habit goes back further than you using some type of sex to escape from pain, to feel better from pain. So we're talking your oldest and most impactful habit. And you're using it to manage the physiology of fear, stress, anxiety. It is serving important needs. And it goes back really, really, really far. So I hope this is a message. One, please be kind to yourselves. Not being kind to yourself is making it worse. Negative thinking is poison. Now, here's the problem with negative thinking. You are never not going to negative think. That's true for the overwhelming majority of people listening to this broadcast, that you are never going to get to a place where you don't have negative thoughts. That's okay. That's totally okay. That doesn't matter, because you don't have to believe them. You don't have to listen to them. You can see them. And here's the punchline for free will. You must be training on the reaction. You're never going to get rid of the reaction, to get defensive, to get angry, to be triggered to act out sexually, to use sex as a coping strategy, to oogle and objectify, to cross other boundaries. Like, you are going to get triggered. There's no reality where that disappears. Free will is using your awareness of the trigger and the thought and how it feels in your body as a call to action. That's how you exercise free will. You must be training yourself on the reaction, conditioning an awareness, awakening, a pause, a snap out of it, hello, something. Wait, I just called my wife a fucking bitch in my head. That thought just popped into my head, and son of a gun, it almost came out of my mouth, but no. I know that I'm reacting. Now listen, I'm not proud of the thought and whatever. I'm going to be honest. I have those thoughts. Or another one, right? Worthless piece of shit. Had those thoughts too. Call to action. I need something. So I want everyone here to make sure in your recovery, in your aggressive pursuit of a great life, you are working hard with your provider and training on the reaction. It goes reaction, action, and that's one way to exercise free will. Since you're never going to get rid of the triggers, since the triggers are biologically hardwired, you have no choice but to use them. To use them to prompt the awakening, to prompt the snap out of it, to be the call to action. Wake up, say, right? So if I think that about my wife, my lovely, beautiful wife, who like, I love her. I don't feel that way, but in the moment I was angry, I felt resentful, I felt like she was controlling me, because I always feel like she's controlling me, even though she's not controlling me. Michelle runs the operation, ladies and gentlemen. If it wasn't for her, there's no mindful habit. Okay? And as who runs the operation, she's going to make sure things get done. And that requires kicking my butt. Anyway, so I'm aware that I'm going to feel that way. Right? And I'm also going to feel down. You're going to feel down. But I know when I have that negative thought, and there are other negative thoughts that are more serious, not serious in that I'm going to attach to them, but more serious in terms of I must take action, right? And for some of you guys, you might know what I'm talking about. It's when they go dark. Or it doesn't have to be dark yet. It can be the world would be better off without me. It might be, life sucks, right? Thoughts like that, right? So when I have those thoughts, that's a call to action. That's something in my body saying, wait a minute, you're stressed, you've got a problem, you feel overwhelmed, and guess what? Almost every time, part of it is me not taking care of myself. And let me switch to the second thing of many things that you can do to exercise free will. And I mentioned that already. Take care of the basics. You must eat well, sleep well, hydrate, exercise, and practice mindfulness. As you grow and as you continue to develop an awareness around the impact that eating, sleeping, hydrating, exercising, and practicing mindfulness has on your body, your mind, and your spirit, it is oh, wait, it's more important than I thought. Oh, wait a minute, that blood sugar thing and agency and control and my moods, more important than I thought. The more I learn, the more important it becomes. The basics. We must take care of the basics. Third, if you want to exercise free will, you must have accountability and you must have community. Brothers, we are in the middle of a loneliness epidemic, which apparently is equivalent to smoking 14 cigarettes a day. Men's life expectancy is going down. It should be going up. The health advantages, it should be going up. It's going down. It's going down. And so many brothers are losing themselves in the online allure of escape, in some cases attention. There has never been more time in human history, men, where there has been more opportunities for you to leak your powerful sexual energy, right? If anybody remembers back in the old days, how frequent was it? How often were you exposed to incredibly sexual imagery? It wasn't all the time. It's all the time. And that means, man, we have to rise above it, right? This is the new sexual revolution, our sexual revolution, where we are taking control back. Join me. I'm not saying sign up for the program. If you want, you can sign up for the program, but join me on this broadcast in making 2024, starting right now, the year in which you truly honor, respect, nurture, feed in a healthy way your sexual part. This is the year you build an identity of integrity, of fun, of excitement, of joy, of connection, of strength, and listen, whatever your thing is, enjoy your thing. Have fun. Do it with a partner. Be open. Be honest. Build an identity of healthy. Critical, because sobriety is less than 10% of the solution. Thank you so much for listening. So great talking with you guys. Let me know in the chat if you have any questions. And gosh, man, it is coming up on our 13th year. And Michelle and I were reflecting recently, sitting at the table out at a restaurant with Michelle's father, telling him that we were going to start a life coaching company and I was going to stop applying for jobs. Wow. What a long, strange trip it's been, and it has been awesome. It has been awesome thanks to you. I live a great, blessed life because of you. Thank you so much for following. Thank you so much for listening. Put your questions in the chat. Embrace your power of choice and feed the right wolf inside